Mrs. Bell.
Yes.
Mrs. Beckleman.
Yes.
Mr. Gresh.
Yes.
Mr. Jarrett.
Yes.
Mrs. Markle.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Mr. Scott, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yep.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
And Mrs. Albright. Yes. Passes 8-0.
Thank you, Mrs. Albright. All right, moving on to old business. Items 9A1 through 9A2. Can I get a motion for those? And a second.
I'll second.
Questions or concerns from the board on those items? Mrs. Albright, can I get a vote, please?
Mrs. Markle.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Mr. Scott?
Mrs. Thompson. I'll come back. Yes. Mrs. Albright. Yes. Mrs. Bell.
Yes.
Mrs. Beckleman.
Yes.
Mr. Gresh.
Yes.
Mr. Jarrett.
Yes.
Bucky.
Come on, Buck.
Bucky.
It's on you. I'm calling back. Yeah, I think. Oh, well. It said he was there, but.
Yes?
Hi, Bucky. All right.
I was there, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
How would you like to vote, Bucky?
Yeah. For the old business, the approving the minutes, are you a yes or no?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Passes 8-0.
thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Albright.
Thank you, Mrs. Albright.
You're welcome, Bucky.
All right, moving on to new business. Item 10A1. Can I get a motion for that item? And a second?
I'll second.
All right. So,
So, you want to, we're going to go to
so we're going to have interviews for the vacant position from Mr. Rittenhouse's resignation. Mrs. Olson, if you'd like to come up.
While Mrs. Olson approaching the podium, we have two candidates that will be interviewing this evening, so we'll conduct those interviews. The board has the right to deliberate on the information they receive without required to. But any deliberation has to be public, these interviews have to be public, and obviously the vote has to be public. So typically, we will conduct the interviews, and then since there's only two candidates, we have a roll call vote in which each board member would identify the candidate that they're in favor of, and we'll see what the results of it are at that time.
So, is that after each meeting?
Yeah, that would be after both the interviews, and we have a roll call, and each board member would just identify the candidate that they're in favor of.
When do we come?
That would be after the interviews and after both interviews. Both interviews are before the vote.
Can we get one after the individual candidate speaks, or are we waiting to question about the votes?
We are giving the opportunity, we question the candidates at the end of their presentation. And then you have the second interview, you have all the information for you, and then you make your vote, have your vote.
So thank you, Mrs. Olson. I have some prepared questions, general questions for the board, and then we'll take.
I can't tell if you guys can hear me.
Is it on?
Come on, you're louder than that.
I do.
Take it off.
There you go.
There
That works.
All right. So after this, the board will have an opportunity to pose any questions to you. So try to take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself. Please be sure to highlight experience or skills that you believe would help you serve as a productive board member.
Okay, for anybody who doesn't know, my name is Julia Olson. I live in Green, obviously. I have lived in Greenwood for over 20 years. I have been employed by the state as a permanent environmental professional in air quality for more than 20 years. Both of my children graduated from Dayton, actually 3 of the 4 people that are retiring today, taught at least one of my children. So it's nice to see them now. I served on the board for 6 years. 1.5 years of that I served as treasurer, and 4 years I served as president. Before that, I served on the Boone Area Library Board for 5 years. I served, I believe 3 years of that as their treasurer. I'm very involved in Dayton activities. I still am. I was an active member of the Dayton Youth Boosters for 10 years. I served as co-chair with Steve Sheppo, the Joint Concession Committee for 5 years. For 12 years, I've been serving as a judge and a chaperone for the Technology Students Association. I've even been continuing to do that after my kids graduated because I think it's an important group. I actually attended both the regional and state competition this year, even though my last kid graduated from regional. I also took part in the strategic planning sessions that recently happened for the curriculum committee. It should be obvious anyone that I'm pretty involved and I like to stay involved. So that's why the opening came up. I'm here today.
All right, thank you. Could you please explain why you're interested, maybe what part of this your statement, please explain why you're interested in serving as a member of the board of directors for the Dayton Area School District?
Well, the fact that I ran like 6 months ago probably should be an indication that I still would like to keep the job. And I think that we got a lot done while I was here, and I still think I was disappointed when I had to walk away. I was really looking forward to specifically working with Mr. Volker to continue the good work that he wanted to do to identify our successes and continue with those, and maybe identify some things that we could do better and continue to move forward with those too. I would really like to be a part of that process now.
All right. And can you talk to us about your vision for the school district? What is the district currently doing right, and where would you like to see the district grow?
Well, I think, and I've said this so many times, that I think what we do right is we have great kids. You know, I mean, just today, I saw in the paper over the weekend that the Bert's Best list came out from the Reading Eagle, and they award 11 awards to graduating seniors throughout the country. There are 17 school districts, I think maybe 18 if you consider that, and 11 awards, and 3 of them went to Dayton for the kids. Our kids are amazing, and they're amazing whether we get it right or not. But when we get it right, you know, so many more of them can succeed when they get out of here. I mean, every year we graduate like scholars and athletes and musicians and artists that excel. You know, that to me is what we do right. as to what we can do better, that was the second one.
Yes, well, what is the district currently doing right, and where would you like to see the district grow?
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, I took part in the strategic planning committee. I think that a lot of things, there were areas of growth that I identified there. But if I was going to pick some, that kind of fell into what we discussed in the curriculum committee. You know, our I don't know if everybody remembers the PACE survey that we do every other year, Pennsylvania Youth Survey. Pennsylvania, like, I don't remember where the acronym is from, but it's very obvious that, you know, not all of our kids feel a sense of belonging when they come to school. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. That's been in those reports every year. I know we've made some good moves, you know, with our away from bullying and non-inclusive behavior with our, you know, choose food and no place for hate. I feel like we could do a lot more there. Oh, and also like our increased training for our guidance staff. But I think we could always do more.
All right. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for individual questions from the board members. We want to start with Mrs. Bell, I guess we'll work our way around the table.
So can you tell me if you recall the percentage of the vote you received during the election? You know, approximately?
Yeah, I received over 580 votes out of a little over 1,300 votes cast, and so that's like 43-ish% of votes. I did have to look that up. So.
Thank you. Okay, for now. Thank you.
Mrs. Olson, what would you consider your biggest success while you were on the board?
Oh my God. So the longest struggle would probably be what I think is the biggest success was bringing back food in kindergarten. It's not like I did that alone. A lot of us that are sitting here voted for that. But to me, that was a big deal. But I think that's probably the biggest one. It's okay to not
Questions? I think you're aware of the members of our current, and you think you'd be able to work with them.
Yeah, I can work with anyone. You know, I mean, some of the folks that aren't here anymore, I can work with them. You know, and there were, I served, nobody's sitting here, but there were folks that I served with that were challenged. And I always managed to, you know, make do.
So, as far as, and I just want to say right off the bat, your contributions to the board were many, and your service to the board was well appreciated. Do you feel at some point that some people may reach a point where they become stagnant?
I always think that when you've got a new, I always feel like when we got a new board coming in, there was new blood and there were new ideas, and you know, we were given new responsibilities and new things to become maybe not expert in, but to learn a lot more about. So I always feel that, you know, as long as I'm continuing to learn, I mean, it's part of the reason I'm drawn to this as my civic duty, is that, you know, I'm a lifelong learner. And so, you know, I'm always willing to take on new things, to keep
Council Motivation Gathering. In your previous position as board president, there were decisions made that brought on controversy, causing the public to attend the board meetings frequently. Concerns ranging from masks to switching of the bus companies, did amongst others. If you could go back in time, would you have still led, voted the way you did, or would you have made alternate decisions, and why?
I believe that if I had all the same information that I had now, with no additional information from today, I feel like I made the best decisions I could most times. I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about, like, if I had known X, it turned out to be the case, if I had known that 3 years ago, it doesn't feel like a useful exercise.
I've shared with you my concerns both as a community member at the podium as well as one-on-one. We definitely see eye to eye when it comes to this being a vital component of education as well. There were times I felt heard, and there were times I felt dismissed. I watched the public share their concerns in person as well as online their dissatisfaction with the direction of the board under your presidency. Most recent, hearing their concerns at the polls. I got a fresh perspective of the community's concerns. As a current board member, why should I personally vote you in as a board member?
Well, obviously you don't have to, and this is something that I've had conversations with other people about. I feel my resume is self-evident. And when a decision is made, after a vote is taken, and sometimes just because policy being what it is, not everybody gets to have their way. You have to go in one direction or another. I always try to make everyone feel like I was listening, and I did, but that doesn't mean that's not the same thing as always having my mind changed.
I guess my main question would be, as you were the board chair, Dr. Cooper, I noticed in the school budget there was a massive 10% increase while you were board member. And on top of that, it seems like the expenditures were still higher than the budgets. How did you justify, getting that pushed through and people regret putting the board currently in school in the situation that we're in, that we have to cut maybe because move forward?
So I make no excuses for the fact that I am not a finance person. That's why there are 9 people on board, because I was not the treasurer during any of that time. Well, I was treasurer for a year and a half, but not during the COVID. I did trust in the advice that I received from people who taught me better. And I'm not going to sit here and talk smack about people who no longer work for the district or people who are no longer on the board. That's not my style. I understand that would be something that would be a concern for you, for sure. Because we had to make some pretty hard decisions during those years. And sometimes we didn't know where the money was going to come from. And like I said, I just took the advice that I received from the people I thought were supposed to know those answers at the time without going through so much other.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Bucky? Did Bucky have a question?
Oh, did you have a question?
You have a question for Julia, Mrs. Olson?
I apologize.
Julia, I don't have any questions.
He doesn't have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scott.
Wait, he's,
Okay, all right, thanks, Buck.
bless you.
Hello?
Hello, hey, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Beautiful, give me 1 second, just make sure speaker runs. And then I think everyone, all right, I think everyone's in the shop. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. There we go. I think that is. It's the best I've got. All right? All right, there we go. All right.
Meeting is Lewis. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right. All right, we start this process by asking you some questions, general questions from the board. I'd like you to reply to those, and then after these questions, we're going to open it up to the floor and have the individual board members ask you some questions. All right. So if you would kindly take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself. Please be sure to highlight experiences or skills that you believe would help you serve as a productive board member.
Okay, is there a way to turn on hearing the
say that again.
Maybe I can mute it. Try this.
Okay,
Is that any better?
that's better. Thank you.
Okay, do you need to repeat the question?
Yeah, go ahead, now repeat the question.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat the first question, Mrs. Williams. Would you kindly take a minute to tell us a little bit about yourself? Please be sure to highlight experience or skills that you believe will help you serve as a productive board member.
Okay, sure. I have worked in local government since 2001. I started at the County of Berks. I worked there for about 18 years. My job there was in the controller's office. I worked on the annual financial reports, the audits, supported the board when they needed financial information. I handled all the grants and a single audit for the county. From there, I went to Government for the School District and served as the controller and the assistant business manager for about 13 months. I worked at the Reading Parking Authority on a temporary consulting basis. That was over COVID. I served as an accounting manager there and got them back on track with their audit. They were behind on some information for their audit, and I got them caught up. From there, I went to East Calico Township in Lancaster County, served as the finance director, actually wrote the budget for 3 years, and did all the other work for pension funds, that kind of thing. And from there, I went to my current position at Manheim Township as the Director of Finance. I also served on some nonprofit boards, 2 ambulance boards. The first was Gilbertsville Area Community Ambulance. I was the treasurer, and then I also served at Valley Ambulance as the president.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. The second question, please explain why you were interested in serving as a member of the board of directors for the Danny Boone Area School District.
Well, I have been interested in what goes on in the school district since I moved into Birdsboro in 2007. My experience with my son, who graduated in 2021, was very positive. He enjoyed the full-day kindergarten program. He really enjoyed his teachers. He did very well. Was very happy, and my experience with my daughter, who is a sophomore at high school this year, was very different. By the time she started, she only attended the half-day kindergarten. I noticed that, over the years, things have really changed. The experience just in, 5 years difference between my kids has been a very different experience for both of them. I would like to see the school district succeed, and I've been following, the issues that have been going on, and I just feel that I have some really good knowledge, and I can be a strong resource for the school district, and I would like to serve the kids and parents of the school district.
Okay. Sorry, you need to break. So. All right, thank you very much. So the last question from the general board, talk to us about your vision for the school district. What is the district currently doing right, and where would you like to see the district grow?
Well, I think the district supports the teachers well. I think our greatest asset is our teachers. I know my kids have always enjoyed their teachers, and even though my daughter has struggled a little bit, she's been able to get through, and the bright point of her day has always been certain teachers. So I think we're really strong there in hiring staff, getting good people on board, that type of thing. My biggest concern is the sustainability of the school district and the finances and the decisions that have to be made because we're not in a very strong financial position. I'd like to see the school district get to the point where we could make decisions knowing that we have, the financial backing to do the right thing and to be able to do what is correct for the children and not be so concerned about how much it's going to cost or not being able to do things because we don't have the money to do them.
Okay, thank you very much. This time, I'd like to open the floor for individual questions from our board members. Start again with Becky. Mrs. Margaret, if you'd like to.
Yes, Helen. Can you elaborate or explain how your work experience in a local municipality will help being on the board? Is there any specific example?
I didn't hear your question.
Oh,
I heard you wanted an example.
Oh, okay, sorry. How about now? Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. So, can you give an example of how your work experience working in local municipality, like with grants, would help you as a board member?
Oh, the grants?
Yeah.
Sure. So a lot of the grants that, the county or the township gets, they're from sources that are the same as the school district. Like I know both county and township and school districts got a lot of the federal relief funding for the COVID impact and to help with those situations. So I understand the rules that are surrounding that. I frequently take seminars with the United States Treasury to understand when the reporting's due, what has to be reported, how it needs to be reported, how to get resources to help with that reporting. Recently, I shared with a member of the board some information on an energy grant with the federal government that should be coming down the pipe soon. I follow the Treasury to understand what initiatives they're funding, so generally I know about funding opportunities before they actually need to be applied for, and I understand the timelines and the information that needs to be submitted with those grant applications. I've written a few grants myself. I've written a budget for them. I've worked on teams with other managers and department heads to write grants and have been successful in getting awards.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Judy, this is Valerie. You answered my first question, so I think I have 3 questions for you. I've seen you maybe a handful of times attending meetings, so, and the community has some concerns, things that they're really looking for as far as transparency. So can you list some of the changes we've implemented this year already in order to reinstall pride and being a daily member of student?
I'm sorry, you were very muffled.
Can you list some of the changes we implemented this year in order to reinstall pride and being a Daniel Boone member and student?
Well, I participated back in October and November in the 5 committees that the school district had, that the parents could join in to make suggestions for changes. I participated in the finance committee. I thought that was a fantastic change to get the community more involved, to be more open and transparent about what the school district was trying to do, to get parents to understand like what happens behind the scenes and how decisions are tough to make because there's so many other things that have to be taken into consideration.
Thank you. Yeah, you answered my second question. We have a candidate here that has a very great relationship with some of the community members here and has experience being on the board. Why should I review it as a board member?
Well, I can see the value of someone who has been there for a longer period of time coming in, but having worked with boards before, it seems, when somebody first starts, they have a great passion for it and they have a lot of new great ideas, but as time goes on, they're not able to contribute new ideas as much. So there's also value to adding somebody new to the board.
Thank you.
Can you highlight the issues that your daughter is having and how you feel that as a board member you can address that and sort of bring her relationship with high school as to the same level that your son had just several years prior?
I heard talk about the issues that my daughter's been facing, but I didn't hear the rest of your question.
Sorry, I'll talk closer to the mic. So you were saying that your daughter, who's currently a sophomore, is having a very drastic difference to your son who graduated several years ago. As a potential board member, can you highlight some of the things that you would want to bring up to change to better your daughter's school experience?
Well, my daughter has some anxiety issues. I've had a very difficult time in getting assistance for her. This has been going on since 3rd grade, and it feels like every year I have to restart the process. So it would be nice, instead of having to wait until she's in trouble and then get her help, knowing, even after summer break, she's going to come back and she's going to need support again. It's not like it hasn't happened, a year since she's been in 3rd grade. So I just like to see programs where when we know these kids are out there and have these issues, that as soon as they come in, somebody's there to help them and to get them into programs at the start of the year. So it's not, after Christmas that she's finally getting help. She's already spent half the year struggling until she can finally get some help. And then usually she's not involved in the program until March, April, when she's ready to finish. So there just seems to be a disconnect there, at least with her, getting that continuity. She's always going to Dan Boone. It's not like she's been changing school districts or anything like that. So I don't know what the issue is. There's counseling staff missing, or there's just some kind of problem with the continuation of support from year to year. I really couldn't say what the issue is. I know budget isn't there, but, it causes these kids problems, and I'd like to find out why.
Thank you.
I want clarity on that. What positions, I want clarity on that. What positions were cut?
So, Mrs. Lewis, when you were saying that that some positions were cut, it sounded like you maybe talking about like guidance counselors or something like that. I'm not sure. Can you clarify what positions you were talking about?
Are you asking me what positions I think were cut? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
That's your question, right?
Yes, you mentioned that it was due to positions being cut. Which positions are you speaking of?
I think there are fewer counselors for the kids. There is, like the cafeteria staff that used to work for the school district, it's really new. Now it's all outsourced, and the kids aren't as familiar with the staff. I know that, like, my daughter depends pretty heavily on the school nurses because, you know, she'll have anxiety issues and she'll go to the nurse, and sometimes there's not a nurse on duty because they're part-time and they're shared between the schools, and, you know, other times they just don't have the time to spend with the kids to figure out what their true issue is and to get them the help they need.
Well, I work in a public school, and I can tell you that there's a nationwide teacher and school nurse shortage, so that isn't new to Boone, but please correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, none of our nurses are part-time, correct?
And
I'll turn mine off, is that correct?
I do not believe we have any. We have one floating nurse that helps cover other buildings, but each building has a full-time
Thank you.
nurse. Mr. Hurley, I am correct. Yep, thank you.
Aren't there social workers added, or?
We have 2 social workers. One is paid for with grant funding, so that one is grant dependent, but we have 2 for the district.
And therapy dog, is that in high school, correct?
That's really a staff member's therapy dog that I believe we developed some type of legal disclaimer for the therapy dog that we have come in, but that's very specific to an individual staff member.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of project that I would like to see expanded, because I know my daughter's birth fee is very relaxed by, and I know every is different, I understand that, but to be able to have the different kind of class would be fantastic. Now, she's never been involved with that therapy dog, but I think that would help.
Oh, well, I didn't get to my questions yet, I was commenting on yours. No, that's fine, but I just was clarifying that we didn't have part-time nurses, I wasn't asking for the same thing.
all right, I don't have any questions for you, Mrs. Loomis. I spent 2 hours with Mrs. Loomis on Saturday. I think she answered any questions that I had, any concerns. So I'm going to answer it.
Alright, I just wanted to start with, I'm sorry that you're dealing with your daughter. I can understand that, help is feeling, that parents feel sometimes, and, there's frustrations that I can agree with on the district, that hopefully we can improve on. You did speak on that you would hope to, find ways to help us with our finances. What ways do you think, what do you think you could do to help us bring in revenue, or, I mean, what are you talking about?
I'm sorry, that was really broken up. I heard, what could we do to
sorry. So, what you spoke on, that you think you can help us with our finances and bringing in money. Like what is your plan? What do you think we went wrong? Like, is there something we could do better?
Well, first I would need to hear all the facts and all the things that have been tried. I know we've tried things in the past as far as like, trying to get sponsors for different things. I remember back to when we were changing from full-day kindergarten to half-day kindergarten, the school district had offered if the community could raise the $600,000 needed, then they would continue the program. And of course, those funds weren't raised, so the kindergarten program was changed to half-day, that kind of thing. So I've heard about these things over the years. I know they've been tried, they've been dropped. We've been talking about trying them again. I'd like to hear, how, where those programs stand now and how we try to change them up a little bit, because you know what they say, trying doing something the same way over and over again and expecting different results, that's not going to happen. So I'd really like to get in there and hear what's been tried. As far as in my past jobs, the things that have been tried in government, obtaining new grants, but of course you have to evaluate the grant programs to make sure that every time, a new governor or president gets in, they have different ideas about the kind of programs they want to fund. So then you start a program and you're getting it funded by the grant, and then they leave office, and then all of a sudden you have to decide, the funding gets cut after they leave office, and you have to make the decision of whether you're going to continue that program with tax dollars or whether you're going to cut it. Families start relying on it, it's very hard to cut, and then that adds more to your budget that you have to spend tax dollars on. So the evaluation process of all that stuff has to be really strong, really focused, really planned out. As far as additional revenues, like I've seen sponsorships that at the township I deal with a trust, resident $7 million trust to the Parks and Recreation Department, so that allows Manheim Township to have a really strong Parks and Recreation Department where other townships don't have one that's as large as that. We have a golf course, which is the one funding source or the one program that actually makes more revenue than what we spend. Also evaluating the program's revenues and expenses and trying to figure out, keep track of how much tax dollars, how much fees you get in it, and how much tax dollars you have to put into it, and evaluating it every year to see if it increases, decreases, stays the same, that kind of thing. So I feel like government entities focus more on the expense side of things rather than the revenue side of things, and especially school districts. I understand that their revenue sources are really limited because they're basically told, how they're allowed to charge taxes and how they're mandated how they can increase taxes, and then the townships are the ones that pretty much put the limitations on, whether there's a lot of residential properties, commercial properties, whether they're allowed to build or not, how much open space they're going to keep, which obviously doesn't generate a whole lot of property tax revenue. So there's just a lot of things to keep your finger on. And you need to focus on your revenue as well as your expenses. Both, one's just as important as the other. You can't pay it out if you don't bring it in.
Thank you. Another thing is that the board is which you probably know, working for townships, is a time commitment. And I feel like the best way to be educated on the votes is to be here in 4 days. Do you think you'd be able to be there and put the time into researching every vote?
Yes, I do, because I've had so much experience that where it might take another person more hours to do the research, since I have the knowledge of where to go to get the information, I don't think it would take me as much time as it might take somebody else. And therefore, yes, I feel I would have the time.
Okay. I'm good.
I have 2 questions. This is Beverly Albright. You said you worked for Governor Mifflin for 13 months. Why did you leave?
We had a difference of opinion with the director of finance, and I didn't want to drag it out. We decided together that we should part ways, and it was just better for both of us as far as, our stress levels and everything.
Okay, and why are you no longer a tax collector for Birdsboro?
Why am I no longer what?
Tax collector?
So in the year that the COVID shutdown was, the county decided to change their software. They had known 5 years previously that their software wasn't going to be supported anymore. And they basically had 5 years to change their software, but for whatever reason, they chose to wait until the 11th hour. And that just happened to be the year that COVID hit. So that year, the tax collection was horrible. All the tax collectors were expected to figure out the system on their own. And they just didn't give us a lot of support. And when we would call and ask for help, it was very difficult to get help, and we were basically told to figure it out on our own. So I decided, because that was the kind of relationship that they were having with all the tax collectors, that I didn't want to run anymore. I didn't want to do the position anymore.
We're gonna have an opportunity to talk about this, right? After this, okay, very much, thank you.
I don't know you, Mrs. Loomis. However, I have found some things on social media that are concerning to me. I am of Jewish descent, and I found Confederate flag postings of not only Confederate flags outside your home, but Confederate flags also on your refrigerator. Do you know the symbolism of a Confederate flag?
Yes, the Confederacy was Americans that seceded from the rest of the United States in the 1860s. So I understand that since then it has evolved into obviously hate as far as the Ku Klux Klan and that type of thing. But my interest in the Confederate flag comes from a love of history, and also my family has a long military history in the United States, and during the Civil War I had family that fought under Stonewall Jackson. So I'm very proud of my history. I also had family that fought under Union side of the Civil War, and you will also find plenty of American flags flying at my house as well.
But do you not agree that that shows a lack of social awareness, that your ideology of demonstrating social awareness to the community and the neighbors of other dissent?
Fake news. Fake news.
It's not fake news. I have photos.
Hey,
I'm not talking about that. Public
Jimmy,
flag.
Jimmy,
I have photos.
no, this is good, this is good. Bucky,
I have photos.
So Jen, no comments from the. I'm not talking about the Confederate flag coming. Look at it. That's all.
So as a Jewish woman, I shouldn't be offended by a Nazi flag?
It's not a Nazi flag. Yo, I would absolutely. Jen.
As a Jewish woman, I shouldn't be offended by a Nazi flag, Mrs. Loomis? As a Jewish woman, I shouldn't be offended by a Nazi flag, a swastika. I have German descent as well. I have German history as well. I shouldn't be offended by a Nazi flag.
I'm not sure what you're asking me.
Go ahead, thank you, Bucky.
All right, so Mrs. Loomis, you mentioned you are a person, I guess, respect your interests. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. So you say you respect the Confederate flag because you're a person of history. I think what Tanya Bell was just trying to say to you, let's say you are a historian of World War II. And this is, I think, very comparable.
I am, yeah.
Right? So would that make it right that you could have a swastika in front of your house? So the Confederate is what?
An American thing, so I don't think that.
But your reasoning is that you are a woman of history, and the Confederate flag, which represents, I mean, I think as a board, we should be humiliated right now because we're in this situation. I'm sorry, are you part of this meeting? Okay, so, Russ, no, he's not going to say anything. Why would he say anything?
So I really need to have everybody in the gallery not make any kind of comments. If you're going to continue to do that, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave the room.
I think my point is that basically, being a person of history, and I get it, I mean, there are people that are World War II, whatever you want to say, World War I, but I think you can compare the two to the fact that you have the Confederate flag, which represents something against, it certainly represents today, and in fact, before I came here today, I had a conversation with one of my employees that happened to be of African American, and it's a very degrading, I think it speaks down to people that are, I don't want to say color, but I mean, that they're African American. And for that matter, we could just throw everyone into that mix. I just think that would be, it's been years since the war is over. It's like, but that represents a lot of, well, history's working, so you get what I'm trying to say.
I just think it's an example of a lack of social awareness. A lack of social awareness that our community needs. Considering the issues that Daniel Boone has dealt with in the past, we have dealt with racism issues in this community. We created a position to handle racism issues in the past, whether you agree with the position or not. We have dealt with it in the past. And to elect someone that has shown a lack of social awareness for something completely offensive to an entire group of people is appalling to me. And you may think it's ridiculous that I feel this way. But as a minority, I don't believe it's ridiculous.
I just want to be clear, you're saying Mrs. Loomis thinks it's ridiculous that you, or?
No, Miss Merkel said it was ridiculous, and Mrs.
Loomis is smirking and laughing. And I also received phone calls. How this was an acceptable thing. This was acceptable. This was acceptable. This is not acceptable in my world. I don't care that this conversation evolved and maybe that's okay now. This is like, do people pay attention? This is 2024. What is going on in the world today? Does anybody pay attention to what's going on in Holy Valley? If you vote for this, you think Birdsboro does not remember? This was all over Birdsboro today. This issue, what happened with these flags was all over social media. You think if you don't vote this person on the school board, this isn't going to hit the Reading Eagle?
How long ago?
I mean, it's still... Exactly. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. It wasn't during the Civil War.
I'm just curious as to when it happened.
Well, this post was 2015. The ones on our refrigerator, I don't know. But it's clear that's how she feels. And if you support someone like that, then maybe that's how you feel as well.
I'm sorry, how do I feel? I didn't hear, because I can tell you how I feel. I don't know how you know how I feel, but I can tell you how I feel. I feel that we cannot forget this history because we were going to repeat it. I mean, the division that happens right now is very concerned that we might be heading for another civil war. And if that would happen, that would be devastating because I've studied and I know the effect that Cold War had on our country in 1865. And even prior to that, working up to it and Reconstruction. So I would tell you how I feel about all of that and how the issues all involved. And just really want to make sure that we know the history so that never ever happens again.
And while I appreciate that, I also know that we are in the public eye. Everything gets scrutinized. Everything is magnified. And like you have to be so careful with everything because you don't have that explanation to give everyone. And there's no way I want my name associated with that at all. If you do watch the news, I'm sure you've heard what's going on in Ole, and God forbid that comes to Daniel Boone, because we're going to be in a world of hurt.
Judy, I understand what you're trying to say, but
planning that anybody who applies to the board, you're going to be going through their house and make sure that they have nothing.
I don't have to go through their house. It's online. I don't post. It's posted. It's public.
you have since taken the Confederate flag down. I don't think you've been flying it in a few years. I mean, I know you said it's also because your family served for the Confederates. I think the issue is usually when you fly a flag or wear a jersey, it's usually because you're showing support for that team. And I think it's you're showing support for the Confederates and what they stood for. Like the comparison with the Nazis, like if you had family that served with the Nazis, you wouldn't fly a flag because you probably get sworn for doing that. And we're trying to teach history, we wouldn't hang a swastika to try to teach that history. You know, like I think that's what they're trying to say.
I completely understand where this is coming from. I also have a Confederate flag. You think I'm a racist? Is that what you're trying to say? Are you accusing everybody of racism? So, because to me, that's just a symbol of being rebellious. That's all it really stands for. It was hijacked by, unfortunately, some Democrats that found the KKK and made it something else. The left has also.
But you ask any black person if they think you're racist, and they will say yes.
Okay, I don't agree with that.
I mean, I was also called a racist for voting for Donald Trump, so.
I'm not saying you're racist.
You're picking a photo from 10 years ago and calling people who supported rebelling against the government racist. Granted, now, the Confederate flag, again, has taken a different meaning, but 4 years ago, I was called racist for voting for
But wasn't this recently?
What were the Confederates fighting for, though?
they were fighting to create their own country.
People are skirting around it.
So it promoted slavery and.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I was not from that time period. I'm
No,
not
of course not.
Donald Trump.
But again,
Completely different.
it is not completely different because I have literally been excommunicated from family members because I shared posts or liked a post. Are you getting to that point where because someone had something 10 years ago that she's an absolute racist or something
You have got to
10 years
use
ago?
discretion as a board member. As a board member, you have to use discretion. And you cannot, how would the students, the minority students in our school feel
If we brought somebody
if we
in.
brought someone on?
Would she make a ruling change to
This is
abolish
not the
abortion
same as who
students?
you vote for. This is not the same as who you vote for.
But you are, again, bringing up something from 10 years ago
I don't think that's the
and
case.
seeing that a post from,
It
hold
was
on,
still
you're bringing
on
up,
social media.
So-
It was still on social media. If
Okay.
there's something that I didn't know, that I no longer felt, I would have removed it.
but again, what does having that have to do with running the school board?
Well,
As
Is
a
she
public
gonna make a-
figure, I don't post myself drunk out on Saturday night either, because it's not what you want the public to view. It doesn't set a good image. It does not portray someone you want to make important decisions for your school and your children.
If a teacher in our district posted.
Oh my gosh, they would be fired.
Yes, if a teacher in our district posted a Confederate flag on their social media, they would be disciplined if not fired. If a teacher in our district posted themselves drinking on a Friday or Saturday night, they'd be disciplined or fired. So, thank you.
Is that factual? If someone went out drinking on Friday night, they would get disciplined, but.
If you're posting it?
Posting it.
Again, I mean, the grounds for termination are very factually based. There is one of the grounds for termination is immorality. If someone you can consider out of time conduct arises at such a significant level that would demonstrate immorality. So thing possible in house.
Thank you.
Thank you. Which is why I don't post anything.
Can I just ask a question, Russ?
Sure.
So where are we on this? We were interviewing her and now we're starting to discuss it among ourselves. Have we moved to that point? Are we, I'm just
I
asking.
think we're done asking questions.
Well, no, I'm asking what the next step is here.
So I think the next step is that we need to discuss among ourselves, if there are no other questions,
Brian, what do we do?
right?
You're permitted to deliberate. Any deliberations would have to be done in public, and then once you've deliberated, there will be, I had recommended earlier that there be a roll call vote, and each board member indicate who their favorite candidate would be, and we'll see what the result of the voting is. It does require a majority of the remaining board members, so it will require 5 votes to appoint a new school director. If you fail to do that within 30 days of March 7th, the effective date of Mr. Ringhouse's resignation, then 10 members of the public can petition a court to fill the vacancy.
May 7th.
Oh, sorry, May 7th. 30 days from May 7th is our timeline. And after that date, if the position remains vacant, then 10 or more taxpayers are permitted to file a petition in the Court of Common Pleas of Berks County to appoint a qualified person as school director. That's, yeah, you can deliberate.
I just want to add, thank you to both candidates for answering our questions. I'm considered a Christian nationalist because I support Jesus. I was told that by relatives, and I'm accused of being a fascist, Nazi supporter, what else am I called? A whole lot. So walking out in public with Jesus on my hat, I take the risk of being ridiculed. And I'm noticing that today's culture and society is there's a whole shift in language and changing the definition of things. Is it true and apparent that we are public figures? 100%. Is everything happening in the holy, something that we really should be taking into consideration? 100%. But I think the issue today is that language today doesn't mean what it used to mean in the past. And just because language changed today, it doesn't necessarily mean it changed the heart posture of an individual person. Just like I don't believe I'm a Nazi sympathizer because I support Jesus, and I run the risk even as a school board member wearing this because people will accuse me as a Nazi sympathizer. You may not know that, but it's true. I get it on my end. And you can shake your head notice if you accuse me. This is Markle, not Markle. We're doing the same thing to you. You can nod your head, but it's my personal experience. I don't believe attaching a label to somebody based on what socially is acceptable today is credible. However, based on the climate of today, that carries weight, unfortunately.
That is my point.
Yeah, I'm sure because I want to let you guys know that I understand exactly what it is you're saying.
Regardless of what, it's what's out there, and it's going to create more
The appearance. You're talking about the appearance.
And
Right.
we created I've been on this board for 6.5 years. We created a position to take care of some problems we were
But
having.
here's the issue that I'm having. If we're going to take guilt with association, you had Dr. Cooper at the polls with Julia. There was guilt with association. And unfortunately, that cost her the election. That's my personal opinion. He sent out an article in the Pottstown Mercury talking about a small minority of voices. You can look for it online, it's posted publicly. And unfortunately, even though Julia has nothing to do with Cooper, she was guilty by association, unfortunately. Just like Judy right now is guilty by association with the Confederate flag. So we're going to talk about guilt with association, and that's how we're going to vote, and we're going to probably be stalemate.
Well, we probably will, but also then, isn't that when our president is also supporting one candidate?
Yeah. So
So
that,
that's the
I will say this,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
I'm telling you, I understand exactly where you're coming from.
so two things. One, Valerie, love you to death, you're a great person like Jenny, everyone's great, and we've met at Branders and all that stuff, right? So, but just so it's clear, I'm just saying this out loud, but I listened to you. I listened to you for years talking in front of us about racism
Yes.
and how it is in school.
100%.
And here we are,
Yes.
here we are potentially bringing in somebody. I personally do not think the Confederate flag represented anything good ever. I mean, I do not believe in slavery. I don't believe with the South did. I mean, we're way past this, right? I mean, but when this came up, respectfully, I just remember how many times you would be up there talking about racism and to us, and I listened to that, and I heard you. I heard Jimmy. I know what you were saying. So here we
I'm
are.
not disagreeing. Do you understand? I'm not disagreeing with you guys. So I don't need to be reminded of the conversations that I've had.
Okay, fair enough. That's
So
fair.
I'm just saying, I understand. It's
That's
the
fair.
appearance. It's the appearance publicly, and that's what we as a board have to take into consideration.
Okay, that's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm not attacking you. I just remember us sitting here.
Like, I've experienced racism. I was
I know
told
you have.
that I had to leave a neighborhood because I was Hispanic, or they called me a white black person in my whole family. Like, I know what racism is, but I am not offended by a Confederate flag. That's me personally. However, publicly, it means something else, and that's the
Yes.
conversation that's on the floor. I'm sure that I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I don't
thank
think
you.
it's valid, but it is something to consider.
Well, I think the bigger picture is what it represents to the people, and I wish we had more people here, but what it represents. You know, again, my point was earlier when I spoke about I didn't speak about my district, but just the conversation with a couple African American employees, when I mentioned it, I mean, wow, I got a reaction, and that's what I wanted to see if that was
But
real.
does that qualify the definition that society has labeled on the flag? Because what happens is and what's happening constantly, is that the definition of things are morphing to mean something. Again, like I said, if I come out and say I'm a Christian, I'm now a Christian nationalist. When did we as a society label someone who's a Christian who wants constitutional rights to maintain within this country become a nationalist? So that's where we are as a society, where the definition of things are changing rapidly. I personally think it's a lack of education on everybody's part, including my own, if we don't understand the origin of things. That's where I'm coming from.
Right, and we are talking about today, it's 2024, we're talking about what this flag represents. That flag represented 100 and some years ago terrible things too. I'm personally glad that I'm considered a Yankee. I'm not trying to, there's no thing anymore, right? But it's what it represents today. And here's what I'm thinking, and I'll say this to us, and I'll say this to all of us. The next time someone walks up here in a week or two, or a student, or I'm sure we'll get some parents, African American background. What do we say to them? I mean, we would be
Perhaps
embarrassed.
there's a real meaning of what the flag
Yeah, I don't
represents.
have time to educate
Flag
the
But
entire.
if they come and ask, then we can always answer the question. If they have any questions, they can always come here and ask. My only concern is the community is not voting it in. And we have a candidate that has a Confederate flag. Now we have two situations where the community is going to be upset either way, and that's where we're at.
Well, we actually are going to be upset because our president just announced that he has a flag and he feels that's perfectly
I have
fine.
a Trump 2024 flag. I'm probably saying
Listen, I voted for Trump. So Trump has nothing, we're not talking politics. We're talking about what the flag represents.
So I explained to you that flag to me just means rebellion. right?
Well, that's it.
It doesn't mean a racism to me.
So
So
here's-
that's what I'm saying. So now you're saying that I'm a racist because
No, I'm saying what it represents. You are the president of our school board. You are representing DMU Boone School District. And Valerie can back me up on this, but for years, listen, I'm I'm just a white guy that's living in this community. I will never misrepresent. I don't need to be smart, but I mean, I can't feel like what a African American person has gone through or still goes through. You know, I can't, I'm not going to fault it. But, boy, here we are, we're representing all the students here, all of the community here, and this is real. Like, this is a real thing. And I mean, with all due respect, it's just like, I thought this would be a no-brainer. I was shocked that this board was feeling this way. I just couldn't even believe that we were in this point.
You have to be more.
And you, with all due respect, I'm the president of this board. I feel should be like a neutral party. The fact that you gave me a 5-minute phone call yesterday, all about Judy, you didn't even give the somewhere in that conversation, and you had even said something remotely positive about Julia, who actually told all of us who endorsed you to be president.
What did
You didn't say anything about Julia. It's all about Julia.
I was not given when I was in that position. I was told I would get a phone call the weekend before the vote. Was I? And I'm sure, no, because the same courtesy was not given to me.
What phone call?
So I was told when I got my seat on the board in 2022 that I was supposed to get a phone call. All the other candidates got a phone call. I did not get a phone call. I came up, oh, so I'm sorry, that's ridiculous.
Okay, so stop. Okay, I'm going to go somewhere else. You know that we have a past.
Yes.
And man, I'm not going to do it. I can't.
What was it that I said to you? You were saying.
You went on.
You left me a 5-minute voicemail yesterday about Judy and how you had a 2-hour meeting with her on Saturday.
Right.
But I mean, my point is.
Well, my point is that we all know Julie. What was I going to say to you about Julie?
Well, okay, so let's back up because I was on the phone, right? So I was on the phone. You're asking Julia questions, I think. I can't 100%. It's hard to hear. But, you know, why does she want to be on the board? Why are we, and these are general questions. I was trying to speak through the phone, but who asked these questions? Because I never got asked a question.
So these are just basic general questions. This is almost the same thing that Tom Volker went through when we interviewed the victim from the BCIU.
Okay.
So that's all.
All right, I didn't know that, but
right. So what are you talking about?
oh. You know what, Russ, this is the problem. No one can speak up in this board.
Right.
You're telling people,
But
go ahead. Yeah.
No. It really seems that that there's just so much, like you were just quoting, and we're really getting off track here. But like your comment about your history, Mrs. Marvel, you know that I tried to get that straight.
Okay, so let's get back to the story. Okay, Mrs. Markle and I can talk later, but that was, and I wasn't trying to take a shot at you. But so I think the president should be a neutral party. That's just my opinion. I always found, I had no problem saying it. I always felt Julia was kind of that way.
So my comment to you was not that I was pushing for Judy. It was that I wanted to let you know that I had a 2-hour conversation with her. I was trying to just be open about it.
Okay.
It wasn't meant to be some kind of an endorsement.
Okay, well, it came across as an endorsement, which is fine. That's what you represent. That's fine. But anyway, I don't have anything else to say. But I just feel like.
I want to make a point.
Go ahead.
If I posted that I like Donald Trump, it's not a fireable offense. If I posted that I'm a Christian and I love Jesus, it's not a fireable offense. It's not.
It wasn't my job.
It's not in the school district.
It is, that's my experience, and that's what
This is the school district.
That's
What we're talking about.
I understand
She's
that, I'm
representing.
sharing it with you, my
I understand your
experience.
experience, but this is about somebody getting voted on the school board, and that's what we represent, the school
I
district.
understand that, and I
So
show it.
a fireable offense for a teacher to post that they like Donald Trump. It's not a fireable offense for a teacher to post that they are a Christian and love Jesus. It is a fireable offense to post that you a Confederate flag in front of your house.
All right, so we're going to take this to a vote. All right? Because this
And
is
I
about,
vote for ready
this is,
people.
this is a lot of airing of grievances apparently, but I don't see a whole lot of
I
production
hope
on
the
that.
Running Eagle is paying attention.
We'll send them a letter.
Wait, a minute, you don't think, Russ, you don't think this is, any of this?
Well, no, I think there was a lot of it here that just went way out of the purview of what we were trying to accomplish. It seemed like it was getting a little bit personal, which is not.
Well, okay. Okay. One of the things that you said when you took over as president, you called me about this. This has nothing about anything. You're going to pull this board together.
Right.
I can tell you right now, this board is not together. You don't treat us like that. It is actually, you don't communicate. The only time I hear from you is like when you're doing, and I guess what, I'm the secretary of the board. I used to hear from Julia at least like once every break or whatever. But the point is, we're not, I don't think, and you guys can speak up. I think Valerie, you and I are fine. We see Jimmy, we're fine. Right, Jimmy? But my point is, we're not together as a group. This is completely divided.
And
With you starting it.
And I completely disagree with you. I believe that you guys are doing everything in your power to not try and meld with these folks. We tried to get seating arrangements. Tom and I talked about at the very beginning, where the old guard was going to mentor the new folks. And what happened? Well, the first meeting, you wanted to go from there to there because you didn't want to be near Mrs. Marple.
Actually, no, that's not true. That's not true.
Then why did you?
You're confusing that with Tanya. Tanya came over here. I was never.
Actually, it was resolved right, was sitting next to me and she looked over.
Yeah, I didn't have an issue with fixing but I mean, it wasn't,
Because I thought I was gonna get my clicker back, but I didn't, because I was ousted or whatever, but that's a different story.
Anyway, we're getting way off topic, but I never.
I actually don't have an issue with you. I don't like being said I'm ridiculous. That's all. That's why I say.
You know what, you're not looking at our experience in content and character, okay? 2 weeks ago, this was put out. 2 weeks,
Actually, we got it today.
okay, today.
We got it.
No, but I mean, we got it today.
Yeah, because you asked for the,
Well, no, we were supposed to have it at 4 o'clock on Friday.
okay.
That's all, I'm just saying, we got
I
it
just
today.
would like to say the point that the public doesn't like Julia is incorrect. She got 45% of the vote. The teachers support Julia. I've talked to many. I spent the weekend speaking with many teachers and staff members, and they do support Julia.
And I also mentioned that Julia had good support for the community. However, 45% did not get her elected, and it's the extra additional 5%, or I would say 10% even, that didn't get her over the finishing line. And that just goes to show how divided we are as a community. Just in general, I have no issue with Julia. I was not antagonizing her in any way, didn't accuse her in any way. In fact, I even said, her and I, we actually share a mutual understanding when it comes to music. I think we speak the same language, and I appreciate her and everything she did for the drama department. However, there are a lot of things I could have said that I didn't say, and I just feel like there's so much assumptions of what it is we represent as a part of what you guys represent. You're one and we're one. We're actually one whole voice, we're one whole board. We are one whole team, and I'm not sure why we can't get there.
But on our side, we don't feel that.
Because as soon as.
Have I made you feel that way?
No.
No, not you. No, the reality is we went from, I separated.
Involved members to
No
second-class citizens.
communication, removed
Not your fault.
I actually don't get communication. Am I supposed to be getting communication?
Yeah.
Well, you should be getting communication. If you're not getting communication, nobody's
I'm
getting it.
getting the text messages. I'm like, what's that? I'm getting
Nobody, if you're not getting communication, then we're getting off topic again, but.
Jerry
but-
Springer coming out.
What?
Jerry Springer.
All right, so
all of us,
we're gonna.
Not saying, in general, not
Take this to a vote, because this is just the bottom.
I just want to finish and tell you that when I was on the board previously, the past president contacted all of us at a minimum of 3 to 4 times a week.
And never once gave her opinion either way.
Correct.
Okay, go to a vote.
Sure, let's go.
All right, let's go to a vote.
Mrs. Thompson.
Julia.
All right. Mr. Scott.
Julia.
Mrs. Speckelman.
Judy.
Mr. Gresh.
Judith?
Mrs. Albright. Julia. Mrs. Bell.
Julia,
Mr. Jarrett.
Judith.
Mrs. Markle.
Judy.
Ooh, 4-4.
That was close.
What's the surprise?
We knew that was
That was coming.
Yeah.
Yes,
We knew that.
Let it stay that way. It'll go.
Especially after yesterday's phone call. Yep.
Yep.
We all got that phone call.
So as I mentioned earlier, it takes 5 votes to appoint a new director. If there's a possibility of reaching that, we could keep up with additional votes. If the board fails to appoint a replacement within 30 days of May 7th, it may not happen, but 10 taxpayers can file a petition to request that the court appoint a qualified person to fill the vacancy.
Now, does it stay open that additional people can put their hat in the ring?
Well, I mean, until the vacancy is filled, the board could appoint any qualified person. And just to be clear, there's no prescribed process on how to fill a vacancy. This is common where you have the interviews and uncommon in the deliberation that we had this evening. But then you have interviews, you vote, and until you reach the majority. But you don't have to have interviews. You don't have, you can just vote. So what you're required to do is fill the position by 5 votes.
Right, so if other people in the district wanted to come forward, they could between now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's
Right,
clarification.
that's what I meant.
Because it's regional representation, the person has to reside in Region 3. And that could happen up until the vacancy is filled, either by action of the board, or if enough time passes and someone petitions the court by the court. So I don't know if the board feels that it's worth another vote, or do we adjourn the meeting and explore?
I think it's a good time to take over here.
True.
It's time to take over here.
Yeah, true.
So I think at this juncture, we're taking an adjournment. So can I get a motion for adjournment?
I want to speak.
He's right, he does get, you have to have public participation at the end of the meeting, per the agenda.
Are we ending or are we
Well,
adjourning?
that's what
Oh, no, I think
recessing is coming back, right? If
No.
German is finishing the meeting, sessions.
Yeah, so, I'm thinking we all need to step back, take a breath. I don't know if there's anything accomplished tonight.
But we still have to open this for public
Yeah,
comment.
that's correct. And there is, yeah, that's the only
Yeah,
other.
we were at 11:09.
Right. So unless the board is inclined to continue to debate and or conduct additional votes this evening, then,
So what does everybody think? Do they want to continue having this discussion?
No. I've never seen this board divided like this. We've been on this board since 2017, and it's incredible. I don't think we ever had this.
I think it's probably best thing for public comment and
All right, we're going to move to public comment. Anybody got anything they'd like to say? Judy, we're gonna disconnect your session, your remote session. Thanks very much for your attendance tonight, and we'll get this figured out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Right, here's the thing. I've been coming to the school board for a long time, you know what I mean? I see positives, I see a lot of negatives, you know? One thing when you say divide, okay, it's 100% true. There's always been divide since day one. Since as new board members came in, there was always divide. Like there was a clique going on that you all were, however long you guys were board members for, and as soon as a member left, it was like getting stabbed. That's what it felt like. And as you lost one, you know what I mean? You lost whatever that is, your members, your friends, your whoever. I don't know what you call it. Coming to the board, many times you guys said, if you want to make a change, then you have to go out and get elected and be on the board. You all said that. Every time you said that. Go out and get elected on the board. We sat in your seats and did the same thing. That's how we did it. And what did we do? We kept coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. Then there was an opening to get elected for one of us to get on the board, you know? And you can only get on by the region that you're in. So you can't just pick. You have to go by whatever opens. And the opening went to Gretchen. But at that time there was animosity where you weren't voting Gretchen. And to me that was number one slap in the face. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. The board members had said, you want to get elected, come and do it. And none of you voted for Gretchen because you had problems with Gretchen. And what you should have did was you should have said, you know what, I'm going to put that aside and we're going to see if we can work with Gretchen. Because that's what you guys want to do, work with people. You said you work with anybody, but you didn't vote Gretchen. You voted Steve Rittenhouse. Okay?
I didn't.
Besides that, okay.
Thank you.
Like they said, okay. But we were shocked by that. You know what I mean?
You were
I know.
Wait, that was your...
I know. I was sorry. It was a little kick, not shock, but kick in the face. You know what I mean? We came here and we said, oh, whoever, Jen, she's on our side, whatever, just like-minded, you think. And maybe you were like-minded, but you weren't going to go over time. Like-minded, but at least, like I said, like-minded, but whatever. That was like number one. It's like, okay, now we have to go out and get elected. You know, or we got to find people that are going to want to fight and get elected on the board to see if we can, you know, there's always two sides to it. And I guess when you have debates, you can figure whatever that solution may have. That's what you do. You talk it out and say, you know what? She makes a good point. I'm going to change what I think because she made an excellent point that I didn't think of. That's how things work. But it never seemed like that. It almost seemed like, again, I'm not on the board. I didn't see that. Well, let's move forward. Gretchen gets elected on the board, okay? Right? She gets elected on the board. No, there's no one. So you have, Russ got elected on the board. He's an outsider. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Our board's getting crumbled. Russell's number one, right? We're talking just members here, by name. Russell's number one. Steve was number two, right? Then it was almost like, well, there's two of our people on. What do we do, right? Then Gretchen gets on, right? An opening happens for some reason. That was getting Valerie, holy crap, that was a joke. The guy goes elected and leaves. That's a total joke. And it was almost like, oh, wait a minute, what are you guys doing? Who is this person? I have no freaking clue who this freaking person is. But let's move it forward. Mary's on the board, and it's almost like someone said, there's 5 of you and 4 of us. And I'm like, what? Where is that? Why is that a thing? 5 to 4. That should never have been a thing. And then everyone's separated. I'm like, this is not what you do. I said it, I told Mr. Volkers, you have to make these people sit next to their enemies and tough tatas.
First of all, you're over your time, so I can answer you. I can answer you. They're not my enemies. At all.
But it seems
Not
like
at all.
it.
No. I got ousted the night before he became president, a vice president, got removed from curriculum committee, told to shut my pie hole. I'm done. I'm living under a dictatorship. I've been stripped of all my power, and my voice means nothing. And what I am going to tell you, and I will say publicly, Julie and I only agreed about 50% of the time, correct? We're actually opposite political parties. And she never disrespected me, ever. She took my call, and she didn't ever swear at me, yell at me, or make me feel like a piece of shit. Done.
So just for the record, I never swore at you.
That's a
No,
lie.
you
You
did.
did, and you apologized for it. You did.
You told me the same thing.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, I did apologize for it. I did
But
not
nobody was
swear at
told
you.
what it
Listen,
And the part you keep reading out, Beverly, is that you screamed at me on the phone. Which is
Russ,
proper.
Russ, you can't speak to a woman like that. I'm not going to speak violently. I'm not going to speak violently.
Buff.
You don't want to, okay. You don't want to conversation.
But listen, please. I'm not trying to divide. I'm trying to listen. Everyone had a vote to vote Russ in as president. You understand what I'm saying?
That's where the 5 to 4 came from.
Who? Again, you're gonna switch
Well, I
that.
know one guy left after
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I don't even know where he is. Parker.
But can I say one thing? I'll say one thing, right? Okay, I think with all this going on, and we can look up the history, but look at our votes. We have voted as a team for a long time, since this board has been in place. I think it's very rare. This is like a first. I think that's the reality. It's a first. We're not allowed to have an opinion over here, unfortunately. And our opinion is told that, that pipe it down a little bit. But the reality is, if we look at this, and I'm not bringing Tom into this, but we have voted as a team. So that means all of us have voted, and we've agreed on, I think, most issues. So when all this divide, I don't know if that's 100%. That's not 100%
No,
true.
it was like that because it seemed like there were signs. It's 5-4. It just seemed like that. You know
Well,
what?
it wasn't true then.
I would like, I do disagree, like, I think, everybody having different votes, that's good.
It's good. It's definitely.
But, I think my issue is, in the beginning, when the direction first came from meetings, I felt like she was very disrespectful to me and to all of us. I didn't know any of these people actually until I got on board. It was just the only reason why I get along with them, I think, is because they were, even though, like, I did vote for Mass, they didn't. They didn't disrespect me for that. And I kind of felt like you guys kind of made fun of me wearing masks or putting my kids wearing masks. And I don't agree with that. We are a melting pot of different views, different opinions. We should be respectful about it. And I think that's, like, Russian has since been nice to me, and I appreciate that. But I think it's hard to forget how she made me feel at the beginning when she first came to meetings.
Understandable. We all were a-holes at some point to each other.
I don't think we ever called you that.
I try to behave myself, but I'm just saying.
No, but I mean,
I'm just saying.
I see the red.
I try to look in respect to you guys because you guys have
Well, that's
tough.
what it should be.
You guys have tough, but that doesn't.
We
Again,
should model that
tough.
for our students, our children. We should model
See,
that.
the toughest thing, if you want to bring up mass, it was no one had a choice, there was only one choice, that's where the problem lies. If it was choice, it would have been no one made fun of, it would just be because you had whatever, there was no choice, that's besides.
But we didn't have a choice.
I understand, I don't want to bring that's old,
Right, let's not go there.
old
I
guard.
think what she brought up was a great word, respect, and I don't think that's right.
Listen, I guess the thing that it is that when bad things happen, or whatever it goes, the people that you would blame are the leaders, the leadership, no matter what. They have to take the fall. The leadership has to take the fall no matter what. And the leadership was superintendent, president. They have to take the fall for whatever thing that happened. And when you guys say there was no communication, things are better off now, which we all know, we all see that clearly, that it's better off now, for the exception of the divide. I'm talking communication,
Right,
how
well,
things go. I'm not talking about behind scenes stuff. I'm talking about but this stuff. So you have to blame the leadership. Now I understand we have two people going for the board, former leadership that we said we don't want old leadership in there, and then you have no other person. So that's kind of where the line is drawn in the sand. You know what I mean?
I think, Jimmy, I think the reality, I'm not cutting you off, sorry, but I mean, the reality is just,
listen.
if the Confederate flag was not part of this, I don't know what even happened to this.
Everybody has differences. Again, it was 10 years ago. I'm not trying to defend, but at one point, one of my favorite shows, Dukes of Hazzard, they had a Confederate flag on their freaking, on their car. I get it. But when people stand by certain things, like Russ had said about freedom and things like that, people take it for different. There's two sides of it. And everyone's entitled to explain where they come from, like timeout. He made a perfect example. I have a huge Trump flag in front of my house. Massively huge. You see the looks I get from my neighbors. I don't care. I don't care. So what I say is, now I got to worry about when I want to be elected to the board, are people going to be like, this guy, you ever see this guy walk around town? The shirts he wears, the flag he has, everyone's entitled to have their own opinion and shouldn't be about certain things. What do they bring? What can they bring to the table? And obviously the line's drawn. Again, the line's drawn. I just don't want to see something like this breaking up what's happening with this. We have to come together. And this vote is definitely not gonna work. So in a way, you gotta take both of whatever it is and go like this. Break it, boom, start new, like Mr. Suber said. That's the only way, because there's gonna be a divide. So obviously, boom, and boom, there's the divide right there. You understand?
Been on the board for 6.5 years. It's always been different opinions.
And-
Kevin Strobel and I went at it
Of course.
every week, but we always came back and talked to each
Yeah.
other because we respected each other.
Of course.
That is not here anymore.
Look, and like,
Jimmy, you gotta wrap it up.
I know, well, she said, President, you gotta earn respect back sometimes. Some people don't lack respect from, however you gotta earn respect back, that's all.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? I'm sorry. Sorry. Here we go.
This is gonna show tonight.
Before I read this, just 3 quick comments. For one, that was the most spirited discussion I've seen.
The mic's off, I turned the mic off. My bad. No, it's on now, right?
3 quick things. One, I want to thank Mr. Gresh for asking to read what you were voting on. It's nice to know what you're voting on. 2, Mr. Stubers, I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm not saying you're wrong, but your answer was terrible, that the public can ask questions, but you don't have to answer them. For an administration that prides itself on transparency, it's nice to answer our questions. And again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that transparency is supposed to be paramount. In fact, what I started to say, the most spirited discussion I've seen since you guys were all elected last summer. This is going to sound more sarcastic than I meant, but to the 5 board members with the best math skills, the 5 with the most common sense, and the 5 who are most willing to listen, I'm making one last appeal to rescind the tax increase that was approved last meeting. It just takes 5 of you, no matter which 5. The 3.75% increase for us generates $1.4 million, not $500,000. That will pay off a roof in 4 years. Then what? The fund balance is capped at 8%, if I'm not mistaken. So the choice at that point would be to either repeal the tax increase after the roof's put on, or as school districts are wont to do, find something else to spend it on. If you use short-term financing, I see none of you are even listening to me now, but that's okay.
We're listening.
5. I just need 5. If you did short-term financing, we keep hearing the substantial revenue we're going to get from TIP in 4 years. We're also going to get revenue from the Taco Bell complex. You're going to get increased revenue from Royal Farms. You're going to save $200,000 annually, I hear, from not having the River Rock building. And then you've got the potential increased funding from Pennsylvania. This school district doesn't need that tax increase. It's unnecessary, it's unfair to the taxpayers, and the budget isn't required to be submitted until June, so you still have time to do the right thing. I asked a question last meeting, what is the actual millage we're going to be taxed at? Is it 33.766 or 34.2709, which is what you voted on?
It's 33.766, and that'll be at the Cal meeting. There'll be a homestead deduction there, and also I'll have the budget, and I'll have a letter explaining everything and how much the homestead's going to be.
So you're going to have to vote on the 33.767.
That's correct.
And, again, I'm just asking, think about what you're doing with this tax increase. If you look ahead to the revenue you're going to be getting in 4 years, that tax increase never goes away. That's $1.4 million for the rest of everybody's life, and your lives are a lot longer than mine's going to be. So,
I'm not that far beyond
you're
you.
looking at $1.4 million a year to the 21,000 people of this community. It's not right. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. All right, any other public comment? No. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All right, you all quick with the